Greetings and salutations. This one's going to be heavy. Kind of working myself up for this one. You can tell I'm even a little bit rosy cheeked and anxious about the topic, but it's a topic that I don't think enough women actually talk about. Certainly, growing up, I didn't hear enough about it, and then when the time comes that you experience your first, second, and so on, it's one of those things I wish women did talk about more often, because certainly we're the only ones that experience it. So it would be nice if we opened up our mouths and actually, shared what we knew. The topic is miscarriages. So you've been warned. If you'd like to skip ahead to a different video, now's a good time, because I'm not going to hold back on this one. Okay, so miscarriages. They occur statistically 1 out of every 5 pregnancies. And I'm talking about the natural occurring miscarriages. My position on, the freedom for a woman to choose, that's a whole different meaty topic for another time. So this is going to cover the ones that spontaneously occur. Miscarriages are something that, so I have had 3 live births, but I have miscarried potentially up to 4 times that I can piece together. 1 for certain, and 3 very early ones. So my point is that women don't talk about these. It's this taboo topic that, it's like we talk about menstruation and we kind of, we get that in sex ed and we get kind of the prep and stuff like that. And good, thank God. Can you imagine if we didn't? My Lord. Actually, they made the movie Carrie about that. Menopause is another one I wish we talked about more. It's getting better. It's getting easier to find information about it. My goodness, I really am rosy cheeked. But miscarriages are still this big, heavy, taboo topic that we don't talk about it enough, and we should. We should let each other know this is what happens, not to scare each other while we're pregnant, but, something to know before you even get pregnant, and something to talk about, after it happens, like reach out to people and, and be there for them. So, my first child, I got pregnant when I was 19, had my first child when I was 20, but my first miscarriage happened probably about 2 years after that. I had kidney stones when I was 7 months pregnant as well. Horrible experience. And yes, if anyone asks you which is more painful, equal. Kidney stones are just more intense and shorter. Labor is long, very long, like 24 freaking hours long. And that's a good one. Anyway, I had a kidney stone when I was 7 months pregnant, and so then my first miscarriage, I was about maybe 2, 3 weeks in, barely even missed the period, and started having these horrible pains, very similar to a kidney stone. Went to the hospital, and eventually, and then one of the nurses actually talked to me about it. She's like, "You may have had a miscarriage," and I was like thinking back to what I had been doing that month, and I'm like, oh God. And even though I had been using protection, I had had a couple dates too close together that I would not have been able to tell who the dad was. So I probably escaped a really good, complicated situation with that one. So nature taking its course was a blessing. Because that would have been a rough one. My college years weren't always that crazy, but every so often there was a weekend like that it was. So that was the first one. The second one happened. The second miscarriage was a lot more complicated for some other reasons. It occurred at 10 weeks. It was horribly painful, horribly scary. I had gone for a pelvic ultrasound around the 7-week mark because there was some strange spotting going on. And I remember the obstetrician noting that the embryo was, no, I went in at the 9-week mark for some spotting. The embryo was still at the 6-week mark of development, though, and he crumpled up the paper instead of giving you the picture to take home with you. I remember him crumpling up the paper and kind of giving me the, hey, 1 in 5 don't make it past the first trimester, don't panic. And I was like, okay. But then there were some circumstances that occurred that week that made it problematic for me to have gone to the hospital. And that's a story and a topic for another night. But that miscarriage was scary as hell because I was farther along in the pregnancy. It felt what I remember labor feeling like every single time, all 4 times in this case, because that was definitely labor, is like you feel like you're a human tube of toothpaste, and this hand of God, or if you will, is coming and just squeezing you. I mean, that's what it feels like. It literally feels like some big thing, far bigger than you, like some giant thing, is squeezing you like a tube of toothpaste. It's excruciating. I did not expect a miscarriage to actually put me into full blown labor. I was terrified. It was, and that's where it's like I wish women would talk about it more. It was completely scary because I thought miscarriages were just like really bad periods. No. It's labor. I was having contractions. The amount of blood was also terrifying and immense, and I was at home with my kids alone because my spouse was not there at that time. And yeah, it was, and I wasn't in a position. If I had gone to the hospital, it was a complicated matter. And so yeah, that one was traumatic on a lot of levels, a lot of levels. And the embryo was, and I say embryo because it was the first trimester. I think after the 2-month mark, it becomes a fetus, if I remember correctly. I It was visible amongst all of the mess, if you will. Um, and I panicked. I didn't know what to do with it. I called the church because I was, practicing Catholic at the time. And I called the pastor at the church crying hysterically, wondering what do I do? What do I do? It's, I was a mess, in so many different levels. Um, it was strange because, I mean, it wasn't big. I remember it being the size of my fingernail on my pinky, it was big enough to see. It was big enough since I had studied enough biology. It was easy enough to recognize, and it was like, yep, that's definitely it. It was, I didn't expect to see it. That was traumatic. That was a biggie. I didn't expect to be in labor. I didn't expect to see it. I didn't expect that much blood. I didn't expect to be in a situation where I couldn't go to the hospital without more dominoes falling. Um, but they would have, and it would have been a lot of different things would have been different. But that one was by far the most intense of them, of the 4. The So by that point, I'd had a son and a daughter, and then I had the second, and I had the big bad miscarriage, and then we had our youngest child. Got pregnant surprisingly quickly, which was also strange. It was a very numb, numb kind of time, very odd time. And then the last 2 miscarriages happened when I was 47 years old. I'm 51 now. So I was 47, dating my high school sweetheart all over again. Would walk through fire for that guy. Would have walked through fire for that guy. Um, but we weren't using any protection. We were 47. We didn't think we needed to. We weren't using any protection. We were just enjoying each other's company as much as possible, really. And I was having these strange cramps again. That human tube of toothpaste feeling. Not, your regular menstrual cramps, but that squeeze. And I was like, what the hell? And I mean, my period wasn't due. it was, it was just, and I went to the chef. I was working at a restaurant and a theater, and I went to the chef, kind of explained what was going on, and she's like, "Oh," and she understood, and she very quickly got me some iron rich foods right away. She's like, "Keep eating these all day long, don't stop." And I'm like, "Okay," and then I clicked into, "Oh, this is what's happening," and I was going over to my boyfriend's house that night, and I was in so much pain. It was one of the few times that I ever barked at him too. He very rarely ever heard me like really yell. And he was just trying to be kind and nice, and I just was in so much pain that I just let out this growl, like Satan kind of level growl. And he's like, "Whoa." And I'm like, "Just want a hot bath." And I just wanted to, because I was still in that labor pain zone. And I'm like, I just wanted to be in the hot bath and just try to just talk myself down from the pain. I was trying to let the ibuprofen kick in because I was just popping as many as I could stomach, because it was hurting. Even though it was, an very early miscarriage. I mean, well before I even skipped a period. It hurt. The body was just crunching like crazy. And eventually I kind of calmed down enough, and he came in with a little candle and tried to make some nice atmosphere in the bathroom with the hot bath. And I'm like, "I'm really sorry I yelled at you." you know um but at least I wasn't alone for that one. That it did help not being alone for that. It really did make a difference. The second one was also with that boyfriend, but so that was May was the first one, July was the last one. We had broken up very definitively in June, circumstances being what they were, and he had moved out of state. So he didn't even know about the one in July, and there was no reason. We weren't even speaking to each other. There was no reason to reach out and tell him. I mean, it was over, it was done. And considering we were in two different states and not staying together, that miscarriage too was, blessing in disguise. It was sad, you know. Um, it was most likely the two that happened when I was 47, most likely my age. The age of the egg that was in there was probably most likely not going to make it anyway. And so the body was doing what it does. If something's not quite right, sometimes that's how miscarriages occur. I was also at the time taking some medications with my doctor's permission, for, mood stabilizing. And that very much likely could have, interfered with, a pregnancy as well. And I do, do feel an amount of guilt, for not being more careful, not using protection, to avoid getting pregnant in the first place. I do feel an amount of guilt, with, having been on the medications that were going to interfere with the pregnancy, but being involved with someone. You have to really, until a woman hits menopause, you have to look at every sexual encounter as you could get pregnant. And you have to think about the fact that, is this somebody that I want to be pregnant with? I know a lot of guys don't really have the same, really don't have the same set of circumstances that we do. They don't. And that's why, like with what's going on right now, politically, is so important, for women to still be able to have as many options as they have and should have, because we carry the brunt of every sexual encounter's consequences. Yes, both parties can get a sexually transmitted disease. Yeah, but not both parties are going to get pregnant. And whether you can't, miscarriages only happen 1 in 5, and they are traumatic, and they are painful, and they are scary. And so you have to, and they occur, you can get pregnant when you're using protection, and you can get pregnant obviously when you're not. And so 3 of my miscarriages happened because I wasn't using protection. When I was married, during we were trying to get pregnant, and one we were just being thinking our age was enough. Apparently not. Um, until a woman finishes menopause completely. you have to be careful of who you're having sex with and realize that you could get pregnant with them, and are you prepared for the consequences? And, are you going to be able to rise up and take care of whatever choices you're going to make? And by all means, women should not have any more limitations on their choices than we already have. We have too many. Yes. Am I pro-life? Yeah, but I'm also pro-choice. Very much so. There are a lot of very valid reasons to need that choice always available. Always. And do I believe life begins at conception? Yeah, I do. But I also believe a mother's life is more important than the child's because, well, lots of reasons, but that's a whole nother video on its own. So, this was a very heavy topic, but my first point is that women really need to talk about miscarriages so that when they occur, it's better for us to know about them before they're occurring, because during, they're terrifying and scary. They really are. And it's important for us to know what's going on with our bodies as much as possible and to know when to get help, and have somebody with you during these kind of circumstances, because it does make a difference. Having someone there, in case the blood loss is too heavy and you need to have medical assistance, and because it is an emotional thing and because, my God, it's labor pains, it hurts. So it's better for the women to stick together as much as possible and for us to be educated on our bodies as much as possible. And that's another reason, too, why, the changes that they want to make right now are so dangerous, because anything that limits access to medical care for a woman, in our reproductive cycle and what our bodies can do, is a very, very dangerous position to put us in. So that's a very deep topic for tonight's Sunday. So be it. The more we talk about it, the better. All right. Take care, all the best. I'm going to go put some ice on these cheeks, my goodness. You get nervous talking about these deep topics, but again, they're important to cover. All right. Take care.